Okay, so we're continuing Halakhot Basar בחלב, Siman Pei Zayin. We're still in the very beginning, the first four seifim. The very first portion of Pei Zayin, we explained the various details concerning different kinds of mixtures of Basar בחלב. Basar בחלב is not only, as we said, the meat of a sheep. It's not only the meat of a goat. It could also be the meat of other animals, wild animals. However, since the Torah used gedi specifically, gedi, which includes keves and ez and a cow, is doraita. It is forbidden by biblical decree, which means that the Torah is medayek. In other words, that diyuk of gedi, which encompasses shezekolel, the calves of various domesticated animals, also comes to exclude those that do not fit that category. It's important to note that many times we may have an Isser Doraita, but we have also an Isser Derabanan on those things that resemble. Right? Something that resembles something else, people may come to confuse it. And since Basar Haya, of a wild animal, resembles the basar of a keves of lamb, people may not be able to distinguish it. There is the issue of marit ayin. Marit ayin means that people will see and judge that something is either mutar or asur. Somebody is seen having a cup of milk and eating venison, he's going to say, oh, basar b'chalav is mutar. I guess somehow it's mutar. I saw him having it. Today they have soy. So something may look like meat, but it's really made out of soy. Have you seen those burgers? They even have dairy burgers, what appear to be like burgers. And, if you see somebody eating those with a slice of American cheese on top of it, you may get the wrong idea. Oh, what's that? Yeah, but luckily there's something called hekero motsui. In other words, hekero, or something which is motsui, something which is known, something that people are familiar with, does not pose the same problem of marit ayin. People are going to say, well, probably that's a soy burger. It's not a real burger. In the same way we explained having coffee creamer at a steak dinner. Most people are going to associate that white liquid not with milk, but with something that is parve, and therefore not come to have a problem of being nichshel, in other words, of making the mistake that something is mutar. There's a drink, a Latin American drink, a Spanish drink, that's called horchata. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. Horchata is made of either rice milk or tiger nuts, all kinds of vanilla, spices. It looks white. It looks like a milk. And there's also the nut, the juice of almonds that we said, that is common in some Mediterranean countries. Those appear white too. So we covered some halachas, which we'll review again, that in the event that these are served in a mid-dinner, there may be an issue marit ayin, so we need to take precautions. We need either to put the almonds around that jar of milk, or to put the wrapper, if there's a wrapper of that creamer, or whatever, just to make sure that people do not suspect us of doing the wrong thing. Okay. So, in speaking about basar b'chalav, those that are midirabanan, which one of them is basar chaya, right, and basar of, chicken, the reason for why they are forbidden is only because people may get confused. That's the only reason. Now, nevertheless, they remain at the rabbanon. Anytime something is at the rabbanon, it's more lenient than if it's a deraita, right? The Rabbanan is, at least in this case, is going to be more lenient doraita. Whenever you have a suffix, if you're going to have a doubt about something, if you're going to be a sfeika for sure, two doubts, something that is a Rabbanan is not as strict as a doraita. Same thing is if you have a hefsed meruba. If you have a hefsed meruba, a tremendous loss, and you had a little bit of milk fall in chicken, right? Would the halacha be any different than if it fell into the meat? It may be. It all depending on the circumstances. A derabanan is treated differently as a deraita when it comes to hefsed, when it comes to suffix. Not always, because the Rabbanan is still a halacha. It's asur, but it's the Rabbanan, but it's still asur. But when we are trying to determine a situation, and there are other opinions, okay, about if something is mutar or asur, and it's a Rabbanan, and or it's a suffix, it begins to be a little bit more lenient. Yes, yeah.
I was wondering whether the category of being more lenient by rabbinical.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
that's also sure.
And,
there's no isur hana. Right. There's no isur bishul. It's only in the case of of and chalav. It was only mainly an issue of achila. We will talk a little bit about where the bishul is a problem, but even if it is, it's only marit ayin.
Another question that I'm not sure what I don't see where.
Yes.
Does the same with Basar behave?
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Okay, that's what we will talk about today.
Oh, okay.
What have we done? That's what I'm trying to review. What we've done so far. Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good.
And one more. I heard actually also that sometimes we treat it more strictly.
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes the Rabbanon made their gzeras equivalent or stricter than the Oraita, so people should not look down at them. Oh, it's only with the Rabbanon decree. So there are times that we take the gzera, the rabbinic decree, very, very seriously. But here we're talking about a different kind of a Rabbanon. It all depends on why the Rabbanon made the gzera. Why was it instituted to begin with?
But the square of the gzera,
Yeah.
maritime, explain. We found in the history Hachamim
Sure.
that not everybody got it. Even a big Talmidei Hacham like Yossi Agili, he hold in his city with the...
Yeah, okay, but that was, remember, the halacha was being formulated at the time.
Okay, I just want to say that not every rabbi thinks machshava.
I'll give you an example. We will be talking about very, very soon about how many hours to wait between meat and milk, right? You'll be surprised at the various minhagim across the globe, different communities, and how long they wait, what the mekor, the source of that halacha is from. And if you go to the Gemara, you will see that there was one rabbi, the day he ate meat, the day he ate it, he did not eat milk. 24 hours he waited. In other words, so this is not a biblical decree. This is a rabbinic decree. Nevertheless, we cannot be lenient and say, okay, I've waited for 5 hours. Is that enough? I'm really eager to have that chocolate, that milk chocolate now.
I think there's a shita that says as long as the 5 hours are rush years.
Yeah, but so we wait 6.
Yeah, we wait 6.
We wait 6. For those who wait 6, you cannot just say, well, can I wait 5 today? No. Yeah, we see. Anyway, we'll get to that when we come to that halacha. So Ilan is right. In general, don't think the Rabbanan is more lenient, even though from what I'm saying it appears to that it is. No. It may be under certain circumstances that a rabbinic decree or rabbinic halacha or minhag will of course be considered in trying to resolve the problem. But since it's a Rabbanan and it's a suffix and there are other opinions who hold differently, one may be lenient, behefset meruban, things like that. But otherwise, we're not going to treat a rabbinic decree any less than we would a deoraita. All right. So anyway, so in discussing the various combinations of chalav with basar of chaya or basar of off or basar of behema, whether it's forbidden by biblical decree or rabbinic decree, it does not make a difference whether it's the chalav of a cow and the meat of a deer, or the chalav of a chaya, okay, and the meat of a calf. Does everybody understand? In other words, it makes no difference how you look at it.
You speak the point of Rabban.
No, yeah, in other words, it doesn't make a difference how you look at it. A combination of chaya and behema, whether it's its milk and its meat and milk, makes no difference. And the reason why I point this out today is because today we'll be talking about the chalav of a behema shchuta, which we haven't done yet. What we've spoken about is only milk that was, how do you say it in English? That we milked, from a live cow. What if you took that milk from a dead cow? Does it make a difference? Yeah, we'll learn that. That's what we're going to be learning. There it will make a difference. So even though that's a real cow, it's not a deer and it's not a chicken. And by a real cow and a real deer makes no difference whose milk, whose meat. The combination of the two results in a derabanan, right? Here, by a chalav shchuta, it will make a difference. In other words, the milk of a slaughtered animal, or an avela, right, is not the same as the milk of a live cow. Even though we're talking about a basar b'chalav d'oraita, we know what the basar is of a goat, a sheep, right, or a cow, and we talk about real milk, cow's milk. In this particular case, there will be a little bit of a difference between chalav shchuta. Now, what did we say so far about a shchuta? We did say something. We did say that if an animal is no longer alive, a clean animal, a cow, it's called either an avela or a treifa, and if everything is fine, it's a shchuta. What is the common denominator of a shchuta, nevela, and treifa? You know, the common denominator of the three. They're dead. They're dead. What's the difference between a nevela and a treifa? You know, in Israel, it's a nevela, but it's a treifa. Yeah, but there is a difference. Treifa had a kosher shchita, therefore it has no tuma. That's the main difference. No tuma. A nevela either died by itself, or he did not shecht it right, and he shot it in the head, or whatever, right? He made it into an avela which has tuma. Neither can be eaten because either it's an avela or treifa, whatever. You can have hana from it, you can sell it to the goy, you can do whatever you want with it. Basar shchuta, whenever you hear the term basar shchuta, just means that the animal is kosher, 100%. Hopefully glat bet Yosef, or whatever. Basar shchuta. However, you could still produce milk. You may still have milk. You slaughter the chicken. What happens if you find eggs in a chicken, inside the chicken? We'll talk about that. Eggs. What's wrong with eggs? We'll see. You'll see in a moment. It can make a difference. It can. Not necessarily, but it can make a difference if you find eggs in a chicken after you slaughtered it. Instead of laying the eggs, you opened it up and you took out the eggs. It happens. It can happen. Eggs are very quick to form. Within 24, 25 hours, you can have an egg going down the system. So,
going down the system within 24 hours.
From the ovaries through the tube and formation. Once it's gone through the tube, the actual formation of an egg, in a chicken is about 24 to 25 hours. That's before it gets late,
yeah. You can use it will be even.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about Avarim Minachai also. Now, so before we go on, the reason I'm getting into all this is because it's important to understand certain concepts. There are a lot of people that learn Yore Deah, they learn Shchita, maybe Trefot, Melicha, Basar b'chalav, but they won't learn some other important halachos like Varim Hayotzin Achai. In Chelek Aleph of Yore Deah, you have a siman that talks about Varim Hayotzim Min Achai, things that come out of the living. You have a siman about Ever Min Achai. You have a siman about Dam, blood, right? You have a siman about eggs. You have a siman about Basar Shenita'ale Min Ayin, which we discussed in the halacha Taaruvot. Meat that you had bought, that you left it, and then you came back. You don't know if it's the same package or not. There's nothing indicating that this is kosher. How do you know you can have it? Anyway, so there's various additional halachot in Yore Deah that are important. So today, perhaps, depending on time, we'll go into a little bit about these varim hayotzim min achai, eggs, a little bit, and about the milk of a slaughtered animal. Why, if anything, should it be any different than regular milk? Okay. In discussing about milk, we said that aside from animal milk, which includes, by the way, camel's milk, which is not kosher, right? There is something called woman's milk. Now I have some news to tell you. Do you know there's something called man's milk?
Yeah.
A man has milk? No. Don't tell me that it's us at first. Can a man produce milk?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh.
Here's the halacha.
Okay. Now, so just be prepared. The Mechaber is about to mention that. The only thing is, he doesn't tell us if it's a man's milk or if it's a male animal's milk. All he says is zachar. So he says zachar. So what does zachar mean? So some say no, he's only talking about the animal male, which sometimes may have some milk. But others say no, it could also be a man's milk. Regardless, it is possible, even though it may be a small amount, that a male should have milk too. Okay?
You are talking about some medical words speak about.
No, it's actually seen. It's actually seen. And you'd be surprised. If you squeeze hard enough, you're going to get something. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Some people are really...
Yeah. No, we're not talking about the wholesale quantity. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Chalav shchuta, which is the milk, a regular milk coming out of a slaughtered animal, is excluded by a pasuk because it's not a living animal. Because it's not a living animal, we learn it out from a pasuk that it does not have the same isser or the same restriction as the basar, as the chalav of a living animal. Is it still asur? Of course it's asur. But it can make a difference if something is asur, as we said before, midoraita, or is it midorabanan. Okay, so chalav is coming out from a shchuta, not a nevela, okay, or treifa, but a shchuta, which means it's a kosher animal, will still retain a little bit of its isser, albeit it's not doraita, it is midorabanan. What difference does this make to us? Even though we're learning Halacha Basar בחלב, it also makes a difference when we talk about kachal. For those of you who were in Halacha Taaruvot, we mentioned a little bit about kachal. Kachal is the udder of an animal. In Farsi it's called sine. You know that? Sine. Some people eat it. The sine, the udder. Yes. The atinim. It's called in modern Hebrew. In Hebrew it's atinim. In modern Hebrew. Okay? The atinim, or the udder, has milk. And the Chachamim tell us, you want to taste basar b'chalav? That is mutter? Eat some kachal. As long as the balabasta knows how to prepare it. It's tricky. It has to be cut in a certain way. It has to be splattered against the wall. You have to basically extract most of the milk from it.
Because it has a lot of roots now.
Yes. So you still will have a flavor, a time, but that time will be mutter. It's no longer alive, first of all. And there's no real milk there anyway. It just has the flavor of milk because that's where it went through. That's where the milk goes through. So this halacha is important when we learn about chal. This b'chalav shchuta.
Where is the milk actually manufactured?
Well, the Gemara says it in its first incarnation, if you can call it, it's blood.
Yeah, sure, I know.
Right.
Yeah. But where is a particular location in the animal's body?
I haven't done research on that. But maybe that's an interesting...
Because you said it comes through the other actually created.
Yeah, that's where I guess it's being transformed into milk. But I'm sure there's other things going on in the body of the cow.
Sure.
Yeah, it leads to that.
After you eat that, are you sour?
Yeah, that's regular meat. The udder is a piece of meat, like any other meat. It's just that it has a different kind of flavor. It has like a milky flavor to it. So the Chachamim said you want to taste basar b'chalav that is mutar for you to eat. Eat the udder, because you'll have a taste of basar b'chalav, which is mutar. It's like I told you, there's a fish in the Tigris River that is called shibuta. And the rabbi said you want to taste a fish, you want to taste pork that's kosher? Taste the fish called shibuta. That has the flavor of pork. How do they know? Because the goy told them. The goy told them, what?
I said they could feel it.
Yeah, the goy told them that. Yeah, it's a kosher fish, the shibuta. They used to have, in the time of the Gemara, they used to have, and it's still there, they say it's still there. So it's a fish that is in the Tigris River. You know where the Tigris River is? It runs through Iraq, goes into Turkey. It starts actually in Turkey, goes down through Iraq. Not too far from the Euphrates. Chidekel. Yeah. So anyway, so there are things that you can taste, that have, this unique... So kachal is one of them. So anyway, so chalav shchuta, as we will see inside, is different than a chalav of a live animal. However, it's still asur. That's the main thing to keep in mind is all of these, even though we're going to say they're different, they're still the same that it's asur, either midrabanan or midoraita. Or marid ayin. What?
No, asur midrabanan.
Exactly.
It means there are no isur bishul in that.
Yeah. Some say That you, okay, we'll get to that. It's a machloket exactly. There's a little bit of a machloket, different opinions about it. Yeah. Right. Now, besides chalav of a shchuta, we talked also briefly about chalav tmeya. Now, chalav of a tmeya, once you introduce an unclean animal into the formula, either the meat is unclean or the chalav is unclean, then really you don't really have a problem altogether. It's not even asur d'Rabbanan.
The combination.
Why? Because it's treif.
It's asur anyway.
It's tarif. You can't have it anyway.
You're right.
Whether it's the milk of the camel or the meat of the camel, right? And now, but because it's asur min Torah, the Rambam says, "En isur halal isur," okay, which means that if you eat it, you're only over on the isur, on the lav of eating something which you're not allowed to eat, something tarif. You're not over on the isur of basar b'chalav, but you can't cook it. Okay, you can't cook it. You cannot cook it. No. Okay. In other words, all right. What would be the problem? It's mutar behano. Okay. And if you eat it, it's only an isur of eating something tarif. There's no isur of basar bechalav. But what about bishul? What would be the problem of bishul? Oh, that's what we're reviewing right now. What would be the problem of bishul? Exactly. Yeah.
But don't they say that basar the chalav tmeya is chalav tmeya because
right.
It's different, so therefore they would use tmeya with chalav.
Right. So what would be the problem of bishul of basar tmeya bechalav tehara or bishul basar regular basar kosher meat with chalav tmeya? No, we just said that. Basar tmeya bechalav tehara. What would be the problem with that? It would only be a derabanan, maybe.
Marit ayin.
And again, what would be the problem? Marit ayin. So on that we have a machloket. What's the machloket? Machloket is like this: anything which you cannot eat anyway, why should there be a problem of cooking it?
What would be the marit ayin?
That's
you work in a restaurant.
That's what we're getting to. If you're allowed to, people who work in McDonald's would have a problem putting a slice of cheese on a piece of cheeseburger. And in that case, if the cheese is a regular...
Is it basar tahora? That's just
Right. Okay. What? Right. It shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. There wouldn't be an isser if it was cheese on pork. But if it was a basar behem, like Ilan said, but it's a problem, it's a nevela.
Which is McDonald's.
Right. Nevelas and treifas are still kosher animals. They just happen to be nevela and treifa. That is where you would have a real isser. Still you would have an isser. Okay? So over there you have the same ein isser halal isser. Right? If you eat it, whether it's chelev, the fat, or whether it's a nevela or a treifa of a kosher animal, you can't eat it because it's treif. What happens if you cook it? On the cooking, it would be a problem in a nevela and treifa. Why? Because it's a kosher animal. In a non-kosher animal, even though it's treif as much as the other one, basar b'chalav doesn't really apply, right? So what could be the isur bishul? What could be the problem? The only problem that there could be is a marit ayin problem. Now, what am I getting to? I'm trying to point out that marit ayin, even though it's a derabanan, it's a lesser form of a derabanan than other derabanans. It's very important to keep in mind. Basar shel tzvi, of a wild animal with milk, is a derabanan. Okay? And it's a derabanan because people may confuse it, that you're eating the real thing. Right? Would that be the same equivalent derabanan when it comes to basar of a non-clean animal being cooked with milk? Would that be exactly the same thing?
So correctly, it depends if you can see the difference.
The what?
It depends if you can see. If your eyes will tell you that it's a thing.
Exactly. Apparently, even though they are both derabanans, the shach is going to tell us, this is different than the Ramah. The shach and the Taz are going to say No problem whatsoever in cooking basar tameh with milk. Why? Because you can tell. Exactly what you said. You can tell. And when would you want to do that, by the way? L'tzorach refuah. You know, if somebody sees he's cooking a concoction of some meat that is not of a clean animal with milk, what is he doing here? He could be doing something for medical reasons, l'tzorach refuah. L'tzorach refuah, by the way, there's no problem of marit ayin.
Anyway. It could even
right. It could be. Right, it could be. So therefore, the Taz and the Shach are going to disagree with the Ramah that when it comes to that kind of a combination, you don't have to be concerned because there's no possibility of achila there. The only problem with ayin is where achila there's a potential for achila. When is that? By basar tzvi, by basar chaya, by basar chicken and milk. There, yes, go ahead and put the almonds around it if you have milk. Even if you have almond milk, put them, because we're concerned about marit ayin. And that's where we have a Rashba that says, Asur levashel bechalav isha mipnei marit ayin. Even the woman's milk you cannot cook because of marit ayin. That's siftar. Obviously, if it fell into a dish, it's bottle. It doesn't even need a shiur, because the milk of a woman is not even a derabanan. In other words, the idea here is that even though all of these are derabanan, there's degrees. Chalav shel isha is really not a problem to begin with. It's not even a derabanan. We actually drink it, not we as adults, but babies do. Right? It's not a problem. I mean, it's kosher, regular milk, and it's not regular. I mean, milk. In other words, it's not a basar b'chol situation. Nevertheless, there's a problem of marit ayin. But in nafal letochat avshil, if it fell into a tavshil, it's bottled into a shir. So the Ramah on that says, Niddah, lefish zeh, the kol shekin de also levasha lechatchila b'cholav tmeya or basar tome b'cholav tahor. V'dafka basar behem, aber be'of the rabbanon ein lochush. So he wants to say, based on what we just said about a woman's milk, that kol shekin de also levasha lechatchila b'cholav tmeya. So the shachem say why? The Rabbi all of a sudden here is being machmir, whereas by off he's mekel. By off the Ramah said, you know what? Nagu lasos chalav mishkedim manichim babasor. You can take milk made out of almonds and put chicken into it. Holil ve'eno rak midrabanan. Basar behema, yes, yesh laniach etzel chalav mishkedim mishum marisayin. That's where you have marisayin. But wait a minute. Why don't you have marisayin by chalav shkedim with off?
Because the rabbanan.
What's the rabbanan? Right. Yeah, but don't you have marit ayin there too?
We don't shish to marit ayin there if it's through the rabbanan.
Okay, so that's
it is through the oraita,
okay.
Like basar b'halab.
Okay, so that's exactly
right.
Exactly. So there, even though marit ayin, the whole thing is a derabanan, by a derabanan, a marit ayin, it would be a double derabanan. It would be like a gzera to a gzera. You follow me? So that's why the Ramah was lenient when it comes to chicken, but the Shach and Taz and everybody else say we're makbid, just like we're makbid by chalav from an isha, for sure by a chicken, to have, to put almonds around it if you're going to cook it together with milk, if you're going to have it together, especially cook it together with milk, the chicken. Yeah. So what's interesting is here everybody's machmir against the Ramah, and the Ramah is machmir where everybody else is mekel. And where is that? By also levasha lechatchila b'cholav tmeya. Wow. You cannot lechatchila. Even though we said before until now that cholav tmeya with basar, there is no basar b'cholav. Right? It's tmeya. The chatchila don't do it. The mechaber told us the din, that it doesn't really apply. Eino noheg. It doesn't mean you can do it lechatchila. Kamalon Shachet you can do it lechatchila. So that's what's interesting here. Why are they being more machmir on this, which is at the Rabbanan too, of Maris Ayin, that you can do it lechatchila. Chalav tmeya or basar tameh with chalav tahara. Even though some go like the Ramah because he was machmir. So,
why somebody going to cook halab טמאה עם בשר.
So
שם סחורה, he's not
anyway, so-
going to eat.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Shach explains. Basically, the Shach is the main one that says that whenever it's not whenever something when the Isur does not relate to achila, we're not concerned. People don't eat this mixture. Why is he cooking it up? For some refuah purposes, maybe. And therefore, there's no marit ayin to cook basar tameh with chalav tehora, he says, or the other way around, chalav tmeya with basar tehora, right? Basar tameh with chalav tmeya, or basar tehora with chalav tameh, whichever. You understand what I mean, right? The combination, either kind of the two. The Shach says there's no problem to do it lechatchila. There's no bias ayin.
Going to
Yeah.
be just the refuah, do sחורה with machalot.
Yeah. Anytime there's a shem refuah, by the way, there's no marit ayin. But that's what's interesting that the Shach says in here, there's no, it's not, you may come to eat it. Our whole issue is you may come to eat it. Here, you're not going to come to eat it. There's no marit ayin even. So before we go on to the next point, just to review a little bit of this maris ayin thing, we spoke a little bit about Gemara increases, and there are various Gemaras about what marit ayin is. So it's good to have a little understanding about it, because it may help us sort through this out. What's marit ayin? Rabbis tell us, Kol davar shasur b'fnei marit ayin, asur afilu b'chadrei chadarim, even in room, even in your closet. So the question is that true about the Rabbanan also? Or is it only true about the Deoraita? Apparently it's true mostly about Deoraita, not about the Rabbanan. The question is, well, if it's not true about the Rabbanan, should there be a marit ayin about the Rabbanan at all? And the answer is yes. Most poskim hold that there is, of course, marit ayin on an Isser Rabbanan. But the Ramah seems to possibly be saying that only if it's in public, not if it's in your private quarters. The Ramah appears to be saying, that's how they explain it, that if it would be in your private quarters, bechadra chadorim, with your family alone, there would not be a marit ayin and an Isser Rabbanan. Very nice. What does that depend on? It could be depending on how you interpret marit ayin. Is marit ayin, as one Gemara says, they may learn from you that this is mutar, or from another Gemara that appears to be saying that the marit ayin issue is they may perceive you as a sinner. Right? Did you get both ideas of marit ayin? One is they may learn from you, or yachshedu becha, that you are a sinner. If the main problem is they may learn from you, maybe there's no difference, or there is a difference between the Deoraita and the Rabbanan. Huh? Right?
If that's the reason, then
Which one would be worse? That they perceive you? Perceive you is never good. Right? Perceive you is never good.
תפקידו הכוונה היא בעקבותיך.
Huh?
יעקב
לא,
בעקבותיך.
פרסיביוס זאת אומרת שהם חושדים אותך.
פרסיביוס זה לחשוד.
According to the second reason, perception, it really makes no difference if it's a Isur Deoraita or Isur Rabbanan. It's never good to be suspected of being this. But the other reason, some explain that it could be that that would be a difference if it's an Isur Deoraita. In an Isur Torah, we would be more machmer, but not in an Isur Rabbanan. By Isur Torah, we're going to be stricter. All right. Anyway, we also explained, as there are examples in Hilchos Shabbos about marit ayin, that if people are aware of something, if things are done in a certain way, that there's no marit ayin. So this applies here too. Anytime people are aware of something, the issue of marit ayin won't exist. All right. I don't know if we need to spend that much more time on it. I just wanted to show you the various differences between different levels of Isurim here. And they may result either way, even though there are different levels of the Rabbanon, Marit Ayin, Deoraita, they're nonetheless, we're still machmir on them. Proof for that is Seif Daled, where we're even machmir levashel b'chol of Isha, which is the least of all of them. So they use that, all the Achronim use that as a reference point, as if we are machmir even on that, then we have to be machmir on all the other situations as well. Even though they're the Rabbanan, and should there be a problem or not be a problem, even though the Shach says you don't have to babasa tmeya, you follow me? So some are machmir, nevertheless, like the Ramah, especially since the Mechaber says that it's even also b'chol avisha. That's all I wanted to basically show, that regardless of the reason, you have to be concerned about marit ayin. It's an issue. People should not make a mistake. Okay, now that we got... Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
But I wasn't to the conclusion that I just came out or something.
Right.
So I guess that would be...
No.
No?
Not in that case, no.
There is no Mali
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All
All right.
That you are not going
But he
to,
saw you standing out on the sidewalk.
for example, to be a restaurant is not kosher.
Yeah. Anyway, the Pitzchei Tshuva, but for those of you who are interested, also brings down that Halacha Lemaaseh, we're not makpid on Marit Ayin on the Rabbanan only if it's in Parhesia. That, yes, that we do make a small distinction. Parhesia. At home, between everybody who's familiar with the situation, if it's a Rabbanan, we're not so makpid. Huh? Yeah, that's the halacha. That we hold like that because there's even a Ramah in Hilchos Shabbos like that. Yeah, even there's even a Ramah. That's a Pitzchei Tshuva. There's even a Ramah in Hilchos Shabbat about that. Ligabe bnei beton at the Rabbanan. Yeah.
I is like a conclusion that you're yelling or something, that he's doing something wrong,
Right.
and he's not really it is.
Yeah.
It depends. But it has
Either way, you have to be careful not to lead on anybody.
It has to look similar to a real Isser standing on the street. To be Marit Ayin, there has to be some...
Out of there, that would might...
If you were coming onto the street, coming out of the building, it was not coming out, it was going in to begin with.
Something like that.
Yeah, so that would be a problem with Marit Ayin.
So we don't hold the principle that you say that everything
Am I
that
right?
Sur B'Shumaritan will be a Sur B'Hadrei Hadarim. We don't hold that because according to
And the
the
Rabbanan,
said
right.
that if it is in the family, the situation, there no Isur Maritain. So the principle that the Sur B'Shumaritan will be a Sur B'Hadrei Hadarim, we don't.
And the Rabbanan.
We don't hold. Yeah, of course. Right. The Rabbanan, the right, of course. With the Rabbanan, we don't.
Yeah. So anyway, so this of course concerned the halacha of Basar off with Chalav, because that's a Rabbanan. That's how we got into it to begin with, right? That is an example of a Rabbanan. If our issue is Marit Ayin, what is the problem? Apparently, it could be that the Ramah would hold that it would be a problem b'seudah gdola, not in a seudah ktana. In other words, at home, it would not be as much of a problem if you were to do that when at home, when people know what you're doing. You may not have to put the almonds. Hey, don't get confused with regular milk. So that's a small distinction, which is an important distinction, I think, to make in something called Marit Ayin. That if it's in a Rabbanan, it may make a difference if it's at home or if it's in public. Which is interesting, because otherwise we're used to the klal of afilu bechadr chadarim asur. Very interesting. I thought that it was a very interesting point. Okay. Anyway, Seif Hey talks about eggs. What does eggs have to do with basar b'chalav? You'll be surprised. Siman nimtzaim be'ofot. You find eggs in a chicken.
Why you saying?
כך כתוב. בצימן נמצאים בעופות. But he wrote נמצאים. You're right. Right. בצימן נמצאים בעופות. You found eggs in a chicken. So, what's wrong with finding an egg in a chicken? What could be wrong? What could be a problem? You would, if you don't learn this halacha, you would never suspect anything. You know that? Because you look at an egg, you say, oh, it's an egg. I'm going to have it either hard-boiled, soft-boiled, scrambled,
Or with milk.
sunny side up, with milk, or whatever, cheese. What could be the problem? It's not so simple. Betzim hanimtzaim be'ofot, they were not laid. They are eggs that are found in a chicken. Imhem gemurot, if they are finished, completely formed. What does that mean? It means dahainu sheyesh lahem chelbon vechelmon, that they have both the yolk and the albumin. I think that's how you call the white, right? Chelbon is the white part, the albumin, and the chelmon is the yolk, the yellow part. Okay? So if an egg has both, afal pi shehi me'oreh or me'ora begidim harei ze gemura, even though it still may have its membranes, the gidim, the membranes that hold the yolk in place. If you know how an egg is formed, you'll realize that it has certain membranes that are basically holding everything in place until the shell covers it up. Right before the egg, the shell comes. By the way, the shell comes about right before the egg is laid. Not too much before. Is when the shell, that little hard calcified shell, is formed. Before that, Not too much before that, a couple hours before, it doesn't have it. All it is the yolk and the albumin. Klipa. Okay, klipa, nachon. So, if the eggs are formed, even though it still may have the membranes and they look a little bit, reddish, it's still called a complete egg. Therefore, mutar leochla bechalab. You can have that egg with milk. אבל אם אין לה אלא חלמון, if all it is in its initial stages of just having a yolk, which is the first thing to form, by the way, the yellow is formed before the white, אסור לבשלם בחלב. It's asur to cook that egg in milk. אבל אם אכלה בפני עצמה מותר, if you eat it by itself, guess what? You could have mozzarella or Munster cheese, your choice, after that egg. מותר לאכול אחריהם גבינה או חלב. Okay, so we need to discuss these two ideas here. What's going on with the egg in a chicken, and why should there be a difference between eating it together with milk or eating milk after it? Eggs that are being formed in the body of a chicken are part of the chicken. They're part of the meat. And they come from the ovaries. They are attached to those. In the initial stages, that's where it's come from. If you read the rabbinic literature on eggs, you'll see the term eshkol. Kashur la eshkol. Eshkol? What does eshkol have to do with it? Eshkol means a cluster of grapes. But that's exactly how the ovary area is described, and that's the way it actually looks. If you were to open up a chicken, look at that area, you will see what appears to be clusters. That's where the eggs are being formed. That's where part of the egg is being formed until it goes down the tube. And unless it's fertilized, of course, which is another idea, unless it's fertilized, you all understand what I mean by that, right? By a rooster, then it could lay an egg every day. And if it's not fertilized, then there won't be, of course, a chick, right? And if there is a chick, then 21 or 22 days later, you'll have another chicken. That's how long it takes for incubation to bring about another chick. So if you don't have a fertilized egg, the blood spots on the eggs are less of a problem, by the way, too. Blood spots, which is another issue on eggs, depending on what part of the egg it is. Okay, it's not so much of an issue if it's a non-fertilized egg, if there's no rooster running around where the hens are. All right, so we have this egg, which if we determine that it's incomplete, it's part of the meat. If it's part of the meat, I have some news to tell you, which the Mechaber didn't mention here. Not only can you not have it with milk, you have to salt it. Melicha!
It doesn't...
No. You have to salt it like regular meat.
I mean, if it wasn't slaughtered properly and have that.
No, that's another problem, obviously, yeah.
So it's taken care of by slaughtering?
Yes, right.
The hen?
The hen, yeah. Right? You just opened it up, and the egg just didn't come out yet. So if it's formed, no problem, go ahead and have it. If it's not formed, it's a machloket in the Gemara. What means form? We paskin like the Tana Kama, right there in the Gemara. We paskin like the Tana Kama there in Beza, that formation means even the membranes are still there. As long as it has the yolk and the white, you're safe. If it doesn't have the white and all it has is the yolk, it's still part of the meat. You can't have it with milk. Yeah. Right, it's a machloket. Rashi is the one that holds that betzim gmurot means that the chelmon nigmar, afal pisha chelbon lo gamur. Right. That's Rashi, but we don't hold like Rashi in his pirush of betzim gmurot. You're saying, yeah, you're right. Right, you're right. Yeah. Rashba holds that you have to have. I should have said it before. Rashba is the one that holds that the Gemara, what the Gemara meant. Finished egg means both the yolk and the white part. There's even one shita, I think, that the Rashba brings down that Gemara means with the shell too, as long as it doesn't have the shell. Yeah, it's not right, but we don't hold like that. The klipa, yeah, the klipa.
But anyway, everybody agrees that we don't.
And the Rosh and the Ran go like the Rashba also.
Even if we don't have the klipa, but we have the white and the yellow, it's okay.
Yes, that's how we hold. Yeah. Yeah. Mechaber and the Ramah. The Ramah in Siman Ayin Hey, yeah, hold like the Rash, but as long as you don't have the chelbon as well as the chelmon, you need melicha like any other meat. You would not be able to have it with milk. So this halacha is very interesting because What is it doing here? Okay, all right. It's just giving us a very interesting scenario that eggs can be part of the meat. I can understand this belongs in Halacha Betzim, which many of the details are there. The reason why he brings it over here is because off is a Rabbanan, right? We just finished saying that. Off is a Rabbanan, so what's the big deal about having it with milk? Well, we can't have chicken with milk. However, guess what? If you had those eggs, you can have later on cheese and milk. If you have chicken now, you can't have milk after that. You have to wait 6 hours. So what do you say to this? How come I'm allowed to have a glass of milk after I had these eggs that are not finished, are not formed? And there's various explanations given. One is, well, what is the reason why I have to wait to begin with between milk? We learned that in Siman Pei Tet. Right, exactly, right. Yeah, you remember that, right? In Siman Pei Tet, we have the reason that Rashi brings down that the tam nimshach bapeh. Right, that's the language I think of Rashi. The tam, the flavor of the meat, is still in the mouth for a while. The Rambam brings a completely different tam, chayshinan, that there's still basar ben hashinaim. There's still maybe a little bit of meat in the.
So we're machmir too?
Yeah, we're machmir both. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So these two reasons, if they are the two reasons, basically why we wait, they don't apply to an egg. Very simple. They don't apply over here. There's no tam and there's no basar ben hashinaim here.
But we can be the tam.
Yeah, but there isn't.
The time of what?
There's no basar. There's no tam of basar. However, the Vilna Gaon says very simple. Basar of bechalab is the rabbanon to be with,
Exactly.
and therefore we're not makbid on the betzim. That's it. You don't go so far as to say the betzim are. But there's an interesting question that I'd like to share with you. There's in the halachas of Ever Minachai. You know what Ever Minachai is, right? You can't have Ever Minachai. The goyim can't have Ever Minachai either, right? They're not supposed to. If you kick a chicken in the tail area and you knock off an egg, how do you know? Yeah, you remember? It could be an Ever Minachai. Huh? Yeah. Anyway.
So then we can achai and come.
Oh. It would be unless we would darshan. There's a drasha. Because of the drasha, right? Of Eretz Zavat, right? We have drashot for that. We have drashot for the for the milk and for the eggs, yeah. For the dvash, yeah.
What is an ever?
Anyway, so let me just share with you this. So on that Siman Pei Vov, the Shach and Taz asked about this. They said over there it's mashma that if somebody hit the tarnegolet in its zanav, in its tail, and the neck fell off, that those eggs are also mishum ever minachai. If they still have the membrane on. If that's the case, we see from that halacha that having the membrane still attached to the egg, even though the egg is complete with the chelmon and the chelbon, right? No, the klipa no. Even though you see it has the chelmon and the chelbon, over there, Me'oreh makes it a part of the meat. Otherwise, if it's not a part of the meat, it wouldn't be an ever minachai. So over there, it says even if it's Me'oreh Begidin, the membranes. So the question is, why should over there be ever minachai, where over here we allow it to with milk, even it still has the membranes on it. Once we consider it complete. It has the yolk and it has the white. Interesting question. So the Taz simply says in the name of the Marshal that these eggs you can actually eat because they don't have a tam basar. Over there that they're considered ever minachai is for a completely different reason. In other words, the ever minachai is not a contradiction to this. Over there, it could still be called part of the meat as far as ever minachai is concerned because it still is me'ureh begidim. But since over here it's totally on tam and it doesn't have the tam basar, then we don't have to be that strict. once the egg is formed and it's complete, it doesn't have the taste of meat. It's not considered part of the meat for purposes of basar b'chalav. But for purposes of ever min hachai, maybe yes. Anyway, the Shach says pretty much what we say in the name of the Gra. Basar of b'chalav is the Rabbanon. And he gives various other terutzim. We're not so makbid on the basar b'chalav part. Even though over there it appears to be that it would be ever min hachai.
Why min hachai be an indication? We said just a few minutes ago, milk would be if
we wouldn't have the drasha,
and
right.
certainly we wouldn't consider milk.
Right.
So why can't the egg that is forced out of a hen be considered ever min hachai without being considered to be considered an egg that's ever min hachai? Like milk could be considered milk that's ever min hachai, and then the fact that it's called ever min hachai over there should in no way.
No, but you're right. But the only question here, at least, was what appeared to be a steer of me'ure begitim.
Right.
That we're not machmir here, and if it's me'ure begitim, as long as it has the chilbon and the chilmon, there we are.
In other words, maybe we're saying that when it's me'ure begitim,
yeah,
it is no longer considered.
Right.
But if it were forced out of the hen, it would be considered an ever min hachai. That's no longer meat.
Right.
Just because it's considered ever min hachai doesn't force meat to be meat.
Right. That's what the Shach is saying. That's one of the terutzim. That they're really, or the Taz is saying that
No,
too.
why would anyone even so?
No, you're right. It's not such a. But the first issue was me'ure begedin. That over there they made a big deal out of it.
Right.
That if it's me'ure begedin, it's me'ure. What I mean, we hold that me'ure begedin does not make a difference. So they say, right, exactly. They're two separate things. Ever min hachai is one thing, basar b'chalav is something else. And of course, it's basar off. Basar off is the rabbanon to begin with. We're not going to be so machmir as to say, if the egg is complete, even though it still has the membranes, it's considered basar. There's no tam. There's no flavor of meat. There's no reason to be machmir. So when was the last time you had eggs with milk?
It's been a long time ago because you want me to only personally or have reasons.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where we'll stop now. The next seif is the seif that speaks about. We briefly spoke about it today. The milk of a dead animal, chalav meta, or as we called it, chalav shchuta, chalav of zachar, meushan, something that was smoked together versus cooked, or cooked bechamei tveria, in the hot waters, in the thermal waters they're called. Have you ever tried them, by the way? The sulfuric water, hot water. Yeah. Anyway, you can cook certain things in that kind of a heat. So the question is, of course, what would be the halacha with that? And several additional details that the Ramah brings down. After that, we will talk about. This is an interesting area, which is the last portion of Pei Zayin deals with various parts of milk. When you buy milk, you can have 2% milk, 0%, which is almost like water, by the way, yeah, and real natural milk. You have various grades of milk. When you make cheese, you will notice that there's something, after the cheese has formed, there's something left on top.
Fine.
Yeah. Right. So the question is, what do we call, or how do we consider those parts of the milk that have been separated from the milk? Is that still real milk? Or is it's just like a water of milk? What's the din of the water of the milk? What's the din of the nesiyube of the chalav? Or the cream? Nesiyube is the kimo cream. Okay. Yeah. Yes, like cottage, you sometimes see it floating on top. So what would be the halacha for that? Right? Nesiyube, as we call it, the nata, that's floating on top. And, so there's various grades of these liquids. What halacha, what din do they have? Or what happens with milk that you find in the cava, in the actual stomach? These are basically the last few halachas of Pei Zayin before we go on to the other siman of not having the two on the table at the same time. Here it's still a little bit the bishul, just that we're talking about bishul of different kinds of things, different parts of the milk, and so forth. So Mr. Shah will cover it next. Okay.